Hello, everyone. Today we will learn important and interesting information about the human skull. Cranial skeleton, 8 bones. 1. Os frontal, frontal bone. Function, forms the frontal part of the skull, protects the brain, and forms the upper part of the orbit. Articulates with posteriorly os parietal, coronal suture, laterally os sphenoidal, os zygomaticum, inferiorly maxilla. 2. Os parietal, parietal bone, 2 bones. Function forms the superior and lateral parts of the skull, protects the brain. Articulates with anteriorly os frontal, coronal suture, posteriorly os occipital, lambdoid suture, laterally os temporale, squamosal suture. 3. Os temporal, temporal bone, 2 bones. Function forms the lateral part of the skull and ear region, protects the auditory organ. Articulates with superiorly os parietal, squamosal suture, posteriorly os occipital, anteriorly os sphenoidal, os zygomaticum. 4. Os occipital, occipital bone. Function forms the posterior part of the skull, protects the brain and spinal cord, distributes the weight of distribulates with, articulates anteriorly os parietal, lambdoid suture, laterally os temporale, internally os sphenoidal. 5. Os sphenoidal, sphenoid bone. Function forms the base of the skull and orbits, supports the pituitary gland. Articulates with posteriorly os occipital, superiorly os parietal, os frontale, laterally os temporale, os zygomaticum, anteriorly os ethmoidal. 6. Os ethmoidal, ethmoid bone. Function forms the nasal cavity and area around the eyes, participates in forming airways. Articulates with superiorly os frontal, os sphenoidal, laterally maxilla, os lacrimal, inferiorly vomer. 7. Os lacrimal, lacrimal bone, 2 bones. Function protects the lacrimal canal in the corner of the eye. Articulates with superiorly os frontale, laterally maxilla, posteriorly os ethmoide. 8. Os nasal, nasal bone, 2 bones. Function forms the bridge of the nose. Articulates with posteriorly os frontale, laterally maxilla. Facial skeleton, viscera cranium, 14 bones. 1. Maxilla, upper jaw, 2 bones. Function forms the upper jaw, holds the upper teeth. Articulates with superiorly os nasal, os lacrimal, os zygomaticum, os palatinum, inferiorly mandibula via teeth. 2. Mandibula, lower jaw. Function forms the lower jaw, enables mouth movements. Articulates with superiorly os temporal, temporomandibular joint. 3. Os zygomaticum, zygomatic bone, cheekbone, 2 bones. Function forms the lateral part of the face, supports the orbit. Articulates with superiorly os frontale, posteriorly os temporal via zygomatic process, inferiorly maxilla. 4. Os palatinum, palatine bone, 2 bones. Function forms the posterior part of the oral and nasal cavities. Articulates with laterally maxilla, posteriorly vomer, superiorly sphenoidal. 5. Vomer. Function forms the nasal septum. Articulates with superiorly os sphenoidal, os ethmoidal, laterally maxilla, os palatinum. 6. Os nasal, nasal bone, 2 bones. Function forms the bridge of the nose. Articulates with posteriorly os frontale, laterally maxilla. 7. Os lacrimal, lacrimal bone, 2 bones. Function protects the lacrimal canal. Articulates with superiorly os frontale, laterally maxilla, posteriorly os ethmoidal. 8. Conchae nasals inferiors, inferior nasal conchae, 2 bones. Function regulate airflow in the nasal cavity. Articulates with laterally maxilla, superiorly os palatinum. Total bones, cranial 8, facial 14, overall 22. Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to us, and together we will continue learning more interesting information and fully explore the organs of the human body.